Hey guys, John here from Sonic Drive Studio. I hope you're all doing well, and as always, welcome back to the channel. And welcome to another dialing in video. I already did a couple of these. I did one on the PRS MT15, one on the PRS Archon 50 as well, one on the Engel Fireball 100 and the Boogie Mark 535. And I also did one on the Engel Fireball 25, but I'm not sure if that's been released yet or if that will come out after this video, but if it hasn't come out yet, stay tuned for that one as well. But yeah, these videos are a lot of fun to make. It's cool to kind of get back to basics and just dial in an amplifier and to show you guys how to get the most out of your amplifier. So if you guys are enjoying these videos, I'll definitely do more. And of course, let me know in the comments down below which amps I should feature in future episodes. Okay, so in this episode, we're taking a look at the legendary Peavey 6505. Formerly known as the Peavey 5150. You guys all know the story behind this amplifier. You all know the history. It's a very well-known amp, and I think we all love this amplifier, right? I have a more recent one. So this one was made in China a couple years ago, and this amp has been very solid so far, and it sounds absolutely awesome. It has been very solid and reliable so far, and I hope it stays that way. And this amp sounds very chunky and huge, and it really stands tall in a mix. And that's what makes this amplifier so unique and cool. Especially the mid frequencies on this amplifier are really big and they cut through very nicely in a mix. And it's kind of like a hot-rodded Marshall in that sense. Undeniable mid-range cut and presence. And of course also a huge chunky low end with a nice sizzle up top. Now I know that a lot of metal players especially like to use these amplifiers with a boost pedal up front to make the sound even more tight. But for me, I tend to prefer the sound of this amplifier in its pure form, so raw and pure without a boost pedal up front at all, especially for 6-string guitars. But of course it also kind of depends on the guitar, the tuning, the pickups and stuff like that. If I were to use an 8-string guitar through this amplifier, for example, I probably would use some sort of boost or pre-EQ pedal to shape the tone a little bit. But in this case, we're just going to go straight into the amplifier with no pedals up front. Now there are some things you can do to make these amplifiers sound absolutely huge and awesome, and we will get to that in a minute. First, I want to show you guys how this amplifier sounds with all the controls in the middle positions, so all the controls at noon, as we like to call it. And the controls that I'm talking about with this amplifier are, of course, the 3-band EQ with bass, mid, and treble, and then also the resonance and presence settings in the power section. The guitar that I'm using here is my ESP LTD NW44 with the bare knuckle aftermath pickup. If you know this channel, you know this guitar. It's one of my workhorse guitars. It sounds absolutely awesome, very ballsy and clear at the same time. The amp is being fed into my RedSeven Amp Central Reactive load and then into an OwnHammer IR from the Modern Progressive Essentials package, the high gain mic blend to be precise. Now, of course, to get a great tone out of your amplifier, you're going to need to hook it up to a great sounding cabinet. Now, my preferred method is a load box with good IRs from OwnHammer. But of course, you can also use a real cabinet or different IRs or a different load. But just don't forget that that's also an important factor in the tone, okay? But the combo that I just mentioned, so the RedSeven with the OwnHammer IRs, is something that really works well for me. Okay, let's take a quick listen to how the amplifier sounds with everything flat, so everything in the noon positions. Alright, so that wasn't a bad sound, but it sounds a little bit boring and flat. Not a lot of excitement, and the tone just sort of sat there in the mix, kind of in the background. Maybe in a super dense mix with a lot of orchestration and stuff like that, it could work. You know, a tone like that could work, but I prefer a tone with a lot more excitement and presence and thick and chunky lows, especially for modern rock and metal. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll loop those riffs and I will tweak the controls on the amplifier so you guys can hear how the controls react and how they affect the tone. And I'm going to try to land on some very solid settings on the end. And then we'll take it from there. Okay, let's check it out. Alright, so as you could hear, the EQ controls on this amplifier are quite powerful. I really like how musical they sound and how they react with this amplifier. They just react in a very intuitive way. For example, if you want the low end to be a bit more fat, the low end response primarily, you dial in a little bit more bass. If you want more clarity in the guitar tone, you dial up the treble a little bit, and so forth. But some of the real magic with these amplifiers lies in the presence and resonance controls. That's where you can make this amplifier sound absolutely huge. And I like to turn those up quite a bit. Especially the presence control on these amplifiers has a quite weird taper in that it starts to work primarily past around 3 o'clock or so. That's where the most drastic changes happen in the tone, which is kind of interesting. And I found that if you crank the presence and resonance controls on these amps up quite a bit, that's where the amp really opens up. And with the resonance, you can really dial in that low end chunk and authority. And with the presence control, you can really dial in that overall clarity and brightness of the tone, obviously. Okay, now let's do a comparison of the sound of this amplifier with my preferred settings for this guitar versus all the controls at noon, so you guys can really hear the difference. Okay, let's check it out. Alright, wow. The tweaked settings sounded so much better to my ears. So much more chunk in the lows, much more presence in the top end, and just more authority and presence overall. This amplifier sounded absolutely huge. And I totally understand why people love these amplifiers so much, as do I. They're just undeniably cool and they sound great in a mix, especially for high gain stuff, you know, rock and metal. So I hope this will help you guys to get the most out of your 6505 or 5150. And in any case, I just hope you guys had a little bit of fun with me here today. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And also let me know your favorite settings with these amplifiers, because I'd love to know. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it useful. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe down below, as that really helps the channel out. I'd hugely appreciate that. You can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers!